Gamecast Continuum.
Welcome everybody to Gamecast Continuum. Thank you so much for tuning in live here on Mixer, watching us on YouTube, or listening on Podbean or iTunes. We are your hosts, DC Skater Shane,
Mr. Bojangles, 1984.
And Drake Dangerson.
Yes.
Dun dun dun.
One of these days we'll get that transition a lot smoother.
It's part of the
I feel
charm.
like it's kind of a handoff. Your voice starts and my voice continues.
Yep. Here at Gamecast Continuum, though, we randomly select some of the greatest games from past and present and go into their history into detail. But before we dive into the fun, let's take care of a little bit of housekeeping. We do this podcast live Sunday nights over at mixer.com/gamecastcontinuum. And as always, the best way to keep up to date with the show is to follow us on Twitter over at GCC Continuum. We tweet out changes in the schedule as well as when the episodes go live and what the next episode will be, and if anything else is going on with us. So, give us a follow and tweet comments or questions, anything to us. This week, though, here at Gamecast Continuum, we're going to differ a little bit from the normal shows that we normally will do, and we're going to be starting a special 4-week miniseries. So sit back and relax, and here we're going to get started with GCC Presents From Darkness to Light, The Evolution of Destiny.
Dun dun dun.
Oh,
that
was my
finally happened.
Yeah, it's my Bungie impersonation.
Bungie music.
There. Yep.
Excellent. You did well.
Thank you.
That was lovely.
Yeah. You want to get us started, DC?
Sure. Well, I mean, Destiny, basically, it was developed by Bungie, as most of you should know, but if not, here's a little bit of information about Bungie itself. It was actually established by a gentleman named Alex Seropian, who was an undergrad at the University of Chicago, and in May of '91, he was a part of. He joined Bungie in 1991 as a software. Yeah, he joined Bungie in May of '91. Nonetheless,
he established Bungie in '91 as Bungie Software Products Corporation.
There you go.
Yeah, he joined himself.
Himself.
Oh my god!
Right, magic. But then later on, he brought in Jason Jones after
the bad boy of software developers.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And published his game, which was called Minotaur: The Labyrinths of Creed. Never played it.
I don't know. I'm sure there was some vooping going on though.
There's always vooping. That's
Minotaur was a really good game.
Yeah, I mean, they're originally based in Chicago, but they focused on making games for the Macintosh initially, and created 2 pretty successful games, Marathon and Myth. But then in 2000, they were acquired by Microsoft, and after Microsoft saw Halo. And Halo was actually originally designed as a third-person shooter for PC and Mac, but, well, now we see where Halo is.
That would have been a really terrible idea.
What it turned into.
Fun story, early on, while they were on the Macintosh platform, I actually heard this on another podcast, Wizard and the Bruiser, but just to give them a little credit on this one, I guess one of the games, I think it was Oni 2.
Yeah.
One of the games, if you uninstalled it, it would delete your whole hard drive.
Yeah.
Like your whole C drive.
The uninstaller. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is terrifying, and I'm glad they found that. Because we may not be talking about Bungie right now if that had, gone live.
Yeah. But and then they were published then by Activision, and when it first came out, it was out on the Xbox 360 and Xbox One, PS3 and PS4. Now it's only on current gen. They dropped the other ones. Was that not quite a year ago?
It was about a year ago.
Yeah, a year ago this August.
But we'll get into that later down the line. The development of this game, though, began after Halo Reach came out in 2010, and it was codenamed Project Tiger, which coincided with the announcement of a 10-year deal with Activision. Which that's a hell of a move. I mean,
yeah, it's a big gamble.
That's new IP. All right, we're gonna put it out and sign for 10 years off that.
Well, I mean, Activision's a pretty big proven commodity too, with what they, what's under their umbrella. So, I mean, it was it's more of a gamble on Activision's part than it was on Bungie's part. They just, they had the backing of Activision, so
right,
might as well not screw it up.
Yeah. Hopefully not.
Yeah.
But with the deal, as part of the deal, the Bungie actually would retain ownership of the property, and Activision would invest $500 million for advertising and the setup of the game engine and infrastructure. So, I mean, they definitely went in pretty far, went pretty deep with it. And I mean, right? But even with that, though, I guess from seeing, what Bungie has already done with, the Halo franchise and seeing all that stuff, I mean, there's already a pretty good track record of games. So it's not out of the question to invest that, because it's not, I don't want to call it a sure thing, but it's not like they're backing some random...
Yeah, some indie developer who made one 8-bit game and they're like, okay, make us an MMO.
Right.
Yeah, and also Bungie, when they were making Halo, they needed help. They need somebody to invest in order to make their dream come true, so to speak, with that game. And they actually approached Activision, but Activision said that they didn't want to partner with them or fund their project at all. So after they did not go in with Bungie and Microsoft took it, and they see how well it went. And, of course, why wouldn't you then want to invest into that company so they can make games that you're going to publish and make money off of,
Yeah, I mean, at that time, too, I don't know. I know they ended up later on, Activision ended up getting or merging or whatever the hell with Blizzard, too. I don't know when that fell in the timeline of all this, but we'll touch on that at some point. But I know...
in our retrospective for Worlds of Warcrafts.
Yep. But yeah, I mean, most of the groundwork, though, I mean, the development was, started in 2010. Most of the groundwork was done by mid-2013, but at that point, a lot of shit changed. But that we're going to actually cover later on this episode. But it took a turn, to say the least.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, if you didn't know, Destiny is a first-person shooter. Whatever. All right.
Really?
No way.
Yeah. I like to play it in third person and run around with a sword all the time, but whatever.
Walking simulator.
There's some RPG elements into it, but it's not like a full-on, hardcore RPG where, dost thou sword. But there are a lot of elements that that scream RPG and a lot that don't.
Yeah, you can level up gear. You can kind of set your own skills in a way. So, in those aspects, yeah.
There's different enemies, and anybody who wants to say, "Well, it's not WoW. It's not supposed to be WoW." If it was WoW, then they would have come up with another race, and we would have had if it's not WoW, go fucking play WoW. But it does have PvE elements where you fight aliens. You go to planets, you shoot things, you do raids, you do strikes. We'll get to those later. But you also have player versus player, which is where a lot of the good meat in this game is when it comes to the actual FPS elements. Because it just shows you how well the gunplay on this game is. If this game was nothing else, the gunplay on it's amazing, but it's more than that.
Yeah.
I think we can all agree that, except for DC, who just sits in PvP trolling people, PvP is if you want to see this game at its bare bones, PvP is probably the best place to go because you'll see what the gunplay is like, and I don't know about you guys. I've never really seen a game like this where the gunplay is like this tight. When it's at its peak. let's go with that that general answer there. But you control a guardian. You're tasked with protecting the Earth from the darkness. The incarnation, which is gonna destroy everything. Because yes, we'll
It's bad.
Get more into the story after that. Yeah.
Yeah.
You fight the darkness because it is evil. There. I couldn't get it any better from a D&D cosplay. Basically, when you start out, it's 700 years in the future. It's like this weird place where there was a golden age. Human race was colonizing planets like Mercury. Which I wouldn't want to live that close to the sun because I wouldn't get a fucking lick of sleep, but whatever.
Yeah.
But Venus looked like tits. An event known as the collapse saw the dissolution of the colonies, which this collapse happens and like, oh shit. There's a few survivors and they're saved by this thing known as the Traveler, which you'll know my opinion on the Traveler at some point. The collapse was caused by that same darkness. It reached out with its weird tendril arms. Nope, they don't describe it ever. It sounds like just like a stock market crash, really, where something happened. They just don't want to describe it. I just picture the darkness as a big, gigantic dark octopus.
And just grabs and
yeah. The Traveler. The Traveler actually hovers above the last city on Earth. Just actually has a really cool visual to it. Now that we ever get to see that city, no. But who cares? Because the tower's awesome. It allows
where it's at right there.
That's right. Hey, they have a music box in there. The presence of the Traveler allows for the Guardians. These are the protectors of the city. Basically, they're like, how would we describe them? Zombie people.
Zombie heroes.
Zombie heroes.
I mean, if you want to get technical.
Yeah. Allows them to wield an unknown power, which is the light. Light. What's your light level? A player is put in control of a Guardian, and you're tasked with reviving the Traveler because it's just kind of sitting there right now, looking like an old husk. Probably giving out Werther's original when it rains. But basically, the Traveler, like the thinking is, reviving the Traveler will prevent us from mankind, the people, not the wrestler, from becoming extinct.
Well, I think they're also thinking with it too, like with reviving it, it could possibly put them into another almost golden age with it too.
Yeah. Help us prosper again and push back the darkness so we can get back to just colonizing every planet that we want,
Yeah,
that's what we do. We are parasites,
Yeah, we're rabbits. And then maybe one day we'll get into like what the Traveler actually is, because he's evil. Hostile alien races are discovered occupying colonies once held by mankind. We'll get into those here in a second, but you combat the aggressive aliens throughout the solar system. Just as the Traveler gives Guardian power via light, the darkness is responsible for giving many races their power, which,
sort of.
Sort of, maybe.
A few races.
A few.
Maybe all of them.
Yeah.
All of the enemy races, perhaps.
Enemy races, what are those?
Those would be some of the NPCs that are in the game. Destiny has a lot of NPCs, actually. Not that you get to talk to and interact with a lot of them. But
you get to put a bullet down their throat.
Some of them you would like to, like Rahul. But, well, I'm sure we'll talk more about Rahul later on.
Stop on his corpse.
That son of a bitch. I brought him a purple. He gave me a blue. Anyway, the enemy races, we first run into the Fallen. They're kind of like an insectoid race. They're like based off of spiders. So they have multiple arms. They have like these bug-looking faces, even though you don't really see them like at all in the game because they're always wearing their masks and shit. But they're like the pirates of the galaxy. They go and they scavenge different resources off of planets like Earth, the Moon, and on Venus are the 3 locations that you find the Fallen on. And they have different houses that represent their race. And in the houses, they each have the same ranks. They have their Shanks, the Dregs, Vandals, captains. They have servitors, archons, and the big guy in charge is their Kel, or the leader of the house. Now, the Dregs and Vandals are almost the same. Actually, they are basically the same enemy type, except the Dregs are Vandals that have fallen. They've failed somehow. So they get 2 of their arms chopped off, and then they're a Dreg, and they are then a lesser being in the house. That part of the Fallen lore I always thought was pretty cool.
Yeah.
The Fallen themselves. I'm sorry. Did you have something?
Well, with the Fallen though too, the one thing I find sort of, I guess, interesting as far as like with them being an enemy to us, to the Guardians, and that is that their main thing is that basically the Traveler left them.
Yeah.
And basically left them, and that's what kind of caused their societies to collapse. I mean,
yeah, the collapse was caused by the Traveler.
Yeah. And they're based because with them, they're with going up through their races or going up through their ranks. Like the servitors are the ones who sort of provide the food for the rest of them, like for all the Fallen, basically.
Yeah, they can't survive without the ether, and the servitors are the ones that provide the ether for the Fallen. Yeah.
But the fact that out of all the races, which we're going to get into the rest of them, they have the most reason to, I'll say, come after us in a way, because
they're technically not really even coming after us. They really just want the Traveler, which
they want their Traveler back.
Kind of goes through us, but their society prospered underneath the Traveler, and once the darkness got close to the Traveler, just went deuces, bye.
Yeah, the Traveler, it was terraforming other planets, and the Fallen got used to it being there as their machine god. Like they worshipped this thing, and then it just took off, and they've been chasing it ever since.
It's the one that got away.
Yes, the one that got away. But as we mentioned, the servitors provide the lifeblood for the Fallen, the ether that they need to use in order to survive. And the Fallen also have a couple of different abilities, so to speak, that they use. Like they have cloaking techniques, like those damn invisible Vandals that just sneak up behind you. And they do also have the ability to teleport short distances, which you'll see the captains do from time to time. If they're ever getting skittish, they just go and hide behind a wall somewhere. They just run away like little bitches.
Or when you want to kill one, they'll hide behind something as you're pointing the gun at them.
Yeah, they'll be one shot away from death, and then they just teleport and hide. The second race, or the second enemy race that we come across in the progression of the game itself, is the Hive. They're an ancient alien race. They create massive underground settlements, which they did to the Moon and the Earth also. More so the Moon, because we gave that to them, kind of as a way to try and keep them from coming to Earth, but they did anyway.
Hey, we can't beat you up. Go to the Moon. We don't want it anyway. It's ugly.
Yeah, like here, do whatever you want with the Moon. I mean, we don't care about that. It only controls the tides and everything like that, But anyway, the Hive themselves, they're split into different sections as well. They're not called houses. They're sects. SECTS, not sex.
Oh, I was about to say, this isn't that type of podcast.
I knew you were thinking it. And in the Hive, you have the Thralls, little gray dudes that just run at you full steam. The Acolytes, Knights, Wizards, Ogres, and the Shriekers. There are others. We'll cover the bigger baddies in another episode, because we're just covering development and vanilla Destiny right now.
Don't worry, there's plenty of Hive coming.
Oh yeah, there is plenty of Hive. but they traverse the universe in their ships, and they're kind of like sarcophagi for them. Like they, I guess, become dormant and they sleep while they're traveling from one planetoid to another, and they stay that way for up to like a millennia at a time. And their main aim is just to transform these planetoids into their own kingdoms, so to speak. And they don't care what happens to the planet. They don't care if the water goes bad or the air or whatnot. They just want to build and do whatever they want with the landscapes. So they're rather infectious.
Well, the Hive. Well, what I think what's most interesting with the Hive, and sort of the Fallen in a way too, but it's more prevalent in the Hive. Like with looking at your the different characters and like how they rank up. Like the Hive, you can actually see the sort of advancement because, like with the Fallen, yeah, they're sort of the same way. Like they're allowed more ether, and they'll be able to become stronger, become further to become a stronger member of their society. Same thing applies with the Hive, but it's a lot more prevalent with the Hive. Like if you actually look at, the acolytes to a knight or whatever it may be, they look a lot closer in everything.
They look like a beefy acolyte, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like the fact that the thralls are actually get experimented on to become the ogres, which I thought was pretty goddamn cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they go from the smallest to the biggest. But the thralls can be semi-controlled, but the ogres, nothing can control an ogre.
Nope.
Unless it's taken.
Hey,
Whoa.
hey.
Spoiler alert for a later episode.
Jeez.
My bad. I'm sorry. But you're right, DC. That is very fascinating about the Hive. Each enemy that they kill, they then take some energy for themselves, and then the rest gets passed through the hierarchy as well.
Yep.
Until it gets to their king.
The leader, they're whatever the highest up. But yeah, and then they kind of, as they're doing more too, like as they start proving themselves, they're allowed to be able to take more of the light or whatever you want to call it, thusly possibly becoming an acolyte or a knight or whatever the hell. Except no one can become a shrieker.
Well, what if I want to be a shrieker?
Tough shit.
You're gonna cause somebody a lot of pain in the future then, during the least opportune time.
I had my hopes up. Anyway, then we've got the Vex, which are crazy robot cyborg type enemies that you fight. They just appeared randomly on Venus. And they get there by these like time gates that they use, and it allows them to travel through space and time itself, so they can pop up anywhere. They're separated into groups also called programmings. Then with them you got the goblins, which are like the lower tiered. Harpies are kind of lower tiered as well, but they can be so annoying. You got
supplicants.
Yeah. You got the hobgoblins, you got minotaurs, and then you got praetorians, which minotaurs and praetorians, I can never really tell them apart until my crosshairs are over them and I can see the name above their head. But then you got cyclopses and hydras that fill their ranks there. Hobgoblins got their sniper rifles. Goblins just random fire their solar weapons at you. Harpies are just annoying as hell. But the main goal... Go ahead.
I'd say hobgoblins are pretty far up there too.
The hobgoblins are up there, but what's neat with them though is how they drastically will change like how you're attacking them. Like they're one of the few enemies that you really see that. Like most of the enemies, if you shoot them, you kill them, they'll react the same way. Whereas like the hobgoblins, you start shooting them initially,
Throw up a shield.
they throw up their shield, but if you pop their head off, they come fucking charging.
They start spamming their
every
sniper.
Vex enemy does that. If you blow off a hobgoblin's head, it'll just charge at you. And it won't even... I'm sorry, a goblin's head. It'll just charge you without any care for their own lives. Like they just want to kill you at that point in time.
At least the Cyclops doesn't do that.
Oh god.
Yeah. And I think the main reason why they act that way is because you blow off their head, which I think is where their main computing is. So it just throws off their programming. So they're just stuck in an endless loop of run forward and shoot, run forward and shoot, you know?
It's like my 5-year-old, or when my brother was 5 years old and playing his first FPS.
Run forward and shoot.
But the overall goal of the Vex is to seize control of Mars and Venus and turn them into their, what do they call them? World machines?
Something like that.
Right?
Yeah.
And they've already done that to Mercury, using their hard light shields for protection and teleporting units onto the battlefield in mass, mind you. Like, the Vex, they spawn in a whole wave of enemies, and then you're screwed, unless you're ready for them.
No moss.
No, I don't want no moss. And the last one I'll cover here before I pass it off to somebody else is the Cabals.
Whoa. Let me see the Cabals.
No, this is a family show, kind of. Sometimes they're referred to as war rhinos, space turtles, but they're a bipedal race, and they're mainly located on Mars. Actually, I don't think you see them in any other location in vanilla Destiny other than Mars itself.
No.
Which I thought was always kind of weird, that every other race had multiple locations that you fight them on, but the Cabal, it's just Mars. What gives? But in their
It's
ranks,
almost as if they had a plan for the Cabal to be a little more mysterious.
I don't know. There's
Quiet
large, military-esque type of enemy. I mean, it kind of makes sense that they only dispatch so many troops, see how they do. But I don't know. I know nothing about the military. But anyway, they consist of legionaries, the phalanxes, which I hate their freaking shields, the centurions, colossi, and scions as well.
Fucking
Which is your favorite to fight?
Not legionnaires, I guess. Centurions are actually, like, if you're looking for like something like, God, we're not even into it yet, but whenever the centurions become a something else, I actually like fighting those because they represent two like differing like strategies to take it out.
The Centurions are probably my favorite though, because they're slightly more difficult, but they're not pains in the asses to deal with.
Yeah, they just have that little solar shield you have to take down, and then their health bar is actually, their health pool is not that large.
No,
it's the shield that takes some time to get down sometimes, but
everyone loves the phalanx.
Oh yeah, they're so great. I just shoot them in the hand, so they drop their shield and then just pop.
I go for the foot.
Yeah,
I aim for like the foot.
You can go for the foot, yeah. But you know, as I briefly mentioned, the Cabals are a militarized species that look to conquer planetary systems with the use of brute force. So they're none too nice.
The shitty part is that like the ones that they sent here aren't even like, you know, they're not even like the good ones. They're the ones that like fucked up. That's why they're on Mars. Like they sent them here because they're like as punishment. So I'm kind of terrified to know what the motivated ones are.
What the rest of
yeah,
because you really don't see
screw ups.
Well, because you really don't see with the Cabal other than like the one or two like factions or whatever the hell you want to call them. You don't see much of them really.
And the Scions aren't even part of their race. They're like a slave race.
Yep.
We're not going to get too far into that. It's just like little like weird things that like I noticed like here and there by either reading up or listening to different things.
Well, yeah, because they have the collars on. The fucking
and they're super powerful.
The Scions, yeah, they're crazy.
Yeah. But I mean,
psionic blast that they shoot out across the ground. Oh my god.
Well, if they're that powerful, you got to figure that the actual Cabal are, fucking terrifyingly powerful.
Something.
Yeah.
The fact that they, even like the lower ranked fucking Cabal are, controlling the Scions and shit. Nope.
Yeah.
So I think we're gonna break away from the NPCs for a moment here and
Sure.
Go a little bit into your own characters, the Guardians. Basically the Guardians were, well, they give you 3 different classes to choose from in Destiny, and from each class too, you get 3 different races as well. But what they did when they're developing it, they wanted to basically make each class iconic in its own right and also easily recognizable. So starting with, the best one, the Hunter.
Woo-woo.
Yeah, whatever.
The Hunters, as their name suggests, were basically sort of the lone wolves out of all 3 Guardians. They're sort of their own, sort of out for themselves, staying mainly out in the wilderness beyond the city, scouting everything, sort of bringing intel back. But even though they are helping out, they're kind of working for themselves in a way. But yeah, they're scouts and they're stealthy killers. Hunters, they're experts with the knives and precision weapons, your scout rifle, sniper rifles, what have you. But the biggest identifier for the Hunter is by far its cloak. And what I think is neat about the cloaks is that it actually tells, every Hunter's cloak basically tells the story of that character. Whether or not it's, tattered, torn, or it's covered in blood, whatever it is, every Hunter kind of has its own story to tell, which I thought was pretty fascinating. That you can actually tell a little bit about that person by what they're wearing, and they made it very easily identifiable.
Look at the length of my cloak.
Yep. And
Not
like
the length that counts.
Actually, it kind of is.
Some of them are just like a handkerchief that you wear around your neck.
Well,
Yep. Yeah, that's
that
like a scarf.
That was the thing with the Hunters, though. Like, in the game, they made it a way that you could actually tell your level early on in the game was the length of your cloak. And so as you leveled, and it's actually seen by the quest that you get from Cade 6 early on for the Hunters, as you hit, and it was like 4, 10, and whatever, hell, I think 15 and 20 or whatever it is, you got different cloaks from him, and they actually were varying lengths down to till the final one was a full length cloak, whereas the starter one is just a makeshift scarf.
Yeah.
Which I thought was pretty neat. But yeah, outfit designs for the Hunter, they wanted to give you sort of a little bit of a feeling of protection, but as well as the mobility, because they're a more mobile class compared to a lot of the other ones. So what they did when the designers were creating them, they kind of wanted to do a 50-50 split of armor to fabric, basically. So you still had that mobility, but you had a little bit of protection. Moving forward with the Hunters, though, vanilla Destiny, all you had were 2 supers per character. And for the Hunter, you had Golden Gun as well as Arc Blade. When they made the Golden Gun...
you mean subclasses?
Subclasses, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the gunslinger and the arc blade, yeah.
And the Arc Blade. And actually, when they were making the Golden Gun... Yeah. What I actually found, I got a lot of this info actually from the Destiny art book, and they go into a little bit more detail, which I thought was pretty neat. And they go through, actually show the animations, and like with the Golden Gun, they want that main focus to be on the gun itself. And if you actually take the time to watch the animation, he sort of pulls it out and sort of snaps it quick above his head as the thing gets lit up by the light and gets lit on fire. So it gave it both the Hunter's supers are very dynamic in the animations. They really do give a good sense of movement with them.
It's a good pop on them.
Yeah. Arc Blade, though, they wanted to do a little bit more agile and elusive, because that's subclass. It's the more mobile one.
It's the only one that can go invisible.
Yep.
Yeah, for now. And even with the Arc Blade, if you watch that animation, especially when you're like, if you're running and you sort of either jump with it or whatever, it's got the real nice like pullback of both the blades sort of lighting up before you can actually go with.
It's like he's trying to hide the knives, like he's trying to smuggle them into a camp or something.
Sort of. Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but it's this one is like the only super that puts you out in the third person, right?
For the
in Destiny 1 in vanilla.
In vanilla,
that you can move
yeah.
around with, because
because all the rest will show the animation of the super where you'll see the actual third person of the character, but then it quickly pulls back to first person.
The first person, yeah.
Moving up to the Warlocks.
Ooh.
No one cares, but
Hey, I'm a Warlock main. I'm just not saying crap because I don't want to start crap.
it's because they suck. But you know, that's besides.
Oh, okay. Yeah, think about that next time you use Blink with your arc blade.
Actually, I
stole
shouldn't
it
say
from
that.
the Warlocks. I don't want to hear it.
I like all three for various reasons, but Hunter is always my definite main. But like
Hunter
the Warlocks,
was going to be my main, but then I learned more about the Warlocks and how they do their research and use their knowledge to, conjure their powers and stuff. It seemed like more of a sorcerer, which is more my kind of thing. So,
well, I mean, the Warlocks are basically the Scholars of Light, as how they're most known, and they basically are devoting themselves to getting as much knowledge as they can about the Traveler and what it does. And even doing a little bit of reading about like how they mention it in the book is they basically said that the Warlock's mind is their biggest arsenal that houses a variety of secrets, and they're essentially walking a line between godhood and madness, which I was like, huh, that's it's an
Makes a lot
interesting
of sense.
It's an interesting way to put it. And even though they are the scholars, they actually use the secrets that they have when they're on the battlefield to basically shatter reality to impose their will on others.
Another reason why they're so cool. Check.
Yeah. Jumping into the appearance on them though, it's a split as it's an 80-20 split for them. 80% fabric to 20% armor, so they're squishy as hell.
They sure are.
Their recovery is really high though.
Their recovery is high, but they're squishy as fuck.
Yeah.
But the Warlocks, like the Hunter, have their own set of supers and abilities, and the Warlock actually is the only one who is able to self-resurrect with one of its supers, which is...
Should have just renamed that Crutch.
Yep. Yeah, it's the only one that really has a crutch built into it, but we're not diving into that.
Just because most people ended up using it as such doesn't mean it was designed that way.
No. But using the light from the Traveler, the Warlock first and foremost can use its radiance to basically make its abilities charge up faster for your grenade melee. And in that, depending on what you spec into, that's where you get your self-revive as well. And what they did with that one is when you activated the super, it kind of gave you the appearance that you were bathing in the light of the Traveler, which it really does. You look at it, it's just a fucking glowing beacon of...
Yeah, it's a giant golden shower.
Yeah, with a giant
more or
sign.
less.
Shoot me, shoot me.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, my personal favorite though is the Voidwalker with the Nova Bomb.
Oh,
That's
so
all
good.
about. It's fantastic. I mean, it's basically power and devastation, using the light of the Traveler to throw a ball of pure void energy. I mean,
the best stop button. Oh,
fuck
hey,
it.
you're coming towards me? Void.
And they basically, for the animation for that, obviously it's a baseball. They pulled heavily from baseball, and
it takes 12 years to get through the animation.
not if you actually... Fun fact though, that's the main, also why I use Blink. If you actually use Blink before using the super, you throw it out quicker.
I hate Blink though.
Get good.
Ouch.
It's not about getting good. It's about I'd like to know where I'm gonna land when my jump is over, sir.
Yeah. Lastly, but not least, is the Titan. They are the defenders of the light, and they are the warriors.
They're the ones that do their best Tim Allen impersonation too.
They used the gift of the Traveler to wage war on the darkness, as everybody did, but the Titans were, I'll say, the ones initially, like the most prevalent that you see with a lot of the defenses and so forth. They tend to face
Battle
any
of the
challenge
Six Fronts, man.
head on. And what's cool is they're the only ones that actually use themselves as the weapon. And so with the Titan, obviously you look at them and they've got bulky ass armor, but it makes sense.
Yeah, they look like Iron Man, and it's awesome.
Basically, the Titans, being as bulky as they are, they have the same 80-20 ratio as the Warlocks do, except they're all armor. The only really cloth they have on them is their dick towel.
Dick towels.
And
man, too bad one of us isn't a main on Titans, because we're just gonna slaughter them now.
yes, we are.
Damn butt
but-
towel.
Oh, it's a dick towel. Not even an ass towel anymore. A lot of the ones that they started putting out
Well,
have
if
become
you have
dick towels.
stuff dribbling under your dick that you need a towel for it, you need to go see a doctor, my friend.
It's
Or you're a
pee-bib.
Titan.
Or you're a
It's a
Titan.
pee-bib. Don't worry about it. But I mean, what I thought was neat though with Titans, I mean, they really did make the classes very different, all of them, the subclass and everything, because the Titans were the only ones in vanilla that actually had your offensive and defensive supers too. Because everybody, I mean, your Hunter they're both offensive, and really the Warlocks, other than the self-res, it's still all offense.
I would say it's kind of a
Yeah.
push on the Voidwalker, though. The Nova Bomb, I think, is a great defensive move. If you
Yeah.
choose to play it that way,
I
I think it's
yeah.
one of the better defensive moves in the whole game, outside of one we won't touch on yet because we're not there yet.
But yeah, I mean, Titans had the Fist of Havoc as well as the Ward of Dawn. Fist of Havoc's cool as shit, and it's basically all about destruction and close quarters combat, and you basically use yourself as the weapon.
Use that Helm of Inmost Light, you can be Superman.
Yeah. And basically what they did, and I thought this was pretty cool, going into when they're talking about how they designed the actual animations for the Titan. They basically split it into two different concepts. You have the sense of travel, and then you have also impending force as you come crashing down. And if you actually watch, like if you're using whatever the fuck that one's called, that you actually can control where you're going with it.
Death from
Yeah,
above,
the
I
Superman
think.
one. Yeah,
Death from above.
Death from above.
I mean, Death from Above really shows the two different, the sense of travel as well, because you can send yourself flying across pretty goddamn good distance, and then when you hit, it has that impactful fucking explode.
Boom. Yeah.
The explosion that can kill you through
Boosh.
walls and floors.
And 50 feet above you, it'll still kill you there.
Yep.
Makes sense? Nope. But then you also have the
That's
The Ward of-
destiny.
it's Destiny. But then you have the Ward of Dawn, which is, I mean, really when I think of the Titans and think of them as, what they did for defending the city, I mean, Ward of Dawn is everything in a nutshell.
Yeah.
And you basically use the void energy to cast the Ward of Dawn to protect yourselves and the others around you. And on some of the earlier battles, actually, they basically created the impenetrable walls with a bunch of bubble titans, more or less. And even if you
Is
look
it the Bubble Brothers?
yep, bubble bros.
Yep.
And even like the animation, I wish they'd show it longer because it goes really quick. But when you watch them, you actually see him physically creating the bubble, and he basically pushes hands out one to each side, and it actually shows that he's holding that bubble up. I mean, granted, it goes away quick,
Yeah.
but it is a neat little touch. And like in the art book, they actually show a little bit more in depth of it. Like when he puts it out, he actually is actually crouched down, is actually like physically holding the bubble up. It's pretty cool.
I always thought the Titan was just doing a quick bow after the bubble popped up.
Yeah, if you slow down the animation, you actually get it, which, if you want to actually see what the animation should look like, you probably want to go see like was it the first quest in the new Destiny coming out, where it shows one of our friendly NPCs, Zavala, pushing it out and just holding it there, which,
Yeah.
oh, anyway.
Mhm.
Sploosh.
Yep.
All right, we have a lot of NPCs in here. Whew.
Yeah.
There's a lot.
Sit back and get comfortable.
Sit back and enjoy this. First and foremost, the first one you really meet's the ghost. He's your little buddy. He looks really cute. There's a plushie of him. He's also known as the Little Light by the Exo Stranger, a mysterious female. She's an Exo. She pops up in plot points during the story mode. We'll talk about her later because that line. That line. I'm sorry. It's like watching Mr. Freeze from Batman and Robin just over and over again.
What killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age.
Freeze. But she's another NPC that's there to help you combat the darkness. We have Queen of the Reef, Marisa. She's awoken and she's basically the king of the House of Wolves. Through stuff that you learn later on. Her dickhead brother is Prince Aldrin Solve. He comes across as a real jerk. He really does.
He's an asshole.
He is an asshole. But in the actual game, anytime you see birds, those are him. Those are his little spies. It's a little tidbit that I learned by reading some of the in-game grimoire that is on a website. Yeah, the speaker, he's basically kind of like a shaman-like character. He is there to try and heal the traveler and tell guardians tales of ships and whales. He's also there to give you a really good cloak, dictel, or whatever that stupid warlock thing is.
Bond.
It's called a warlock bond.
Bracelet.
It's an upper arm bracelet. It's really noticeable on the warlocks.
Depends on which one you use.
There's only one, and it's the one you get from Omnigul.
No. I hardly ever take off my exotic dead orbit bond.
We have Commander Zavala, who we talked about recent as 5 seconds ago. He is a Titan main.
He's a beast.
He is a beast. Well, he's kind of a beast. We're not at the beast yet. Yeah.
True.
He's the leader, basically the leader of the Titans for the Vanguard. So anytime you need something like Titan wise, you can go to him. We have Cade 6. He's the fun, brash hunter character. He runs the basically he wants to be out in the field, but he lost a bet. Now he has to be the leader of the hunters in the tower, which kind of sucks. Like that guy who wants to be in the cop that wants to be in the field but gets stuck with a desk job all the time. Oh man, he's like probably one of the funniest people. We have Vicora Ray. This is the beast we were talking about.
Yeah.
She is a warlock, and you don't want to, you don't really want to get on her bad side. And
fuck no.
Yeah, she also mains an invective, which is just ballsy. It's so good. I have hopes and dreams on the next Destiny that you get some video for just like you do as Zavala, because I really want to see that. And I'm not even a warlock main. You have Lakshmi too. The 2 standing for what is it? That's how many times they've been reset, right? This is for Exos.
How many times they've been wiped?
Yeah, which is really sad, but the longer you go on without being wiped, the smarter you get. I guess that makes sense. But she's the least I've seen. Cade 6, and then you have Lakshmi 2.
You also have Banshee, what, 99?
44.
44.
Yeah, Banshee 44, I believe.
Yeah. Hold on, we're not in yet. But yeah, she's the leader of the Future War Cult, who has an awesome name, but some people think strange colors. I actually like the Jeff Gordon DuPont colors. We have Eric Jal. So he's the leader of Dead Orbit. If you ever want to hear anything funny, just stand by him for a while. It's like he needs like clove cigarettes and he needs to be hanging behind a high school.
Yeah.
But he's gonna be that asshole in the next one.
The I told you so.
Yeah, he's the I told you so guy. He says the Earth is lost and the city's a fatal trap. Oh man, we have Executor.
He tried to tell us.
Hey, he's gonna be like, hey, I told you so. Whatever. What an asshole. We have Executor Hideo. He's part of New Monarchy. He used to be known for his lavish gifts to children and the elderly, which is really nice. But like in any government, the more he got into the business part of it, the less he could give away his funds. New Monarchy, by the way, has, I mean, I like all their color schemes. Like I said, my personal favorite's Future War Cult, but Dead Orbit's pretty badass too. I think New Monarchy's color scheme is my least favorite, just because it's ketchup and mayo.
Basically, yeah.
Oh boy, here we go. Master Rahul.
What a dick.
What a dick. This fucking asshole. He's the guy that whenever you get these engrams out in the field, they're these little, they look like dice for a D&D game, but they're colored. You get these out and you have to decrypt them because he's a crypto archaeologist. Yeah. Like me trying to say brewery. But he works directly for the Guardians, which you would think he doesn't. And he decrypts those engrams. And sometimes when you have a green one and you are, no, it was it, you have a purple one, which is considered a legendary one. It'll bring it down. Blue. Decrypts as blue, which is rare, which isn't legendary, which is, controller break.
So frustrating.
Yeah, but then they, later on, at least more recently too, though, you could give them blues and get like
exotic once in a while.
Really good, yeah. So for all the shit we gave you,
yeah. Sorry, Destiny 1. Here's exotics. We have Evil Levante, who has probably like the saddest story if you ever go into her grimoire, like ever. But she's in the tower to kind of. She gives out like the emblems and shaders. That's where you can buy them from, but it's kind of like these like keepsakes from a time gone by, like things that are like important to her. And she has like this really cool story that's sad as shit, but really good. You have Amanda Holliday, who also has pretty. I was
gonna say hers isn't that much better.
Yeah, hers is pretty sad as well. If you want to know about these things, we're not a lore podcast. There's plenty of other ones. We're just kind of giving you the quick. These are what these people are. But Amanda Holliday, she's like she's the shipwright. She's the one who deals with like all the ships and everything. She knows and respects the dangers that press against the city's walls. So that's why she gives like her capabilities to the tower. We have Banshee 44, who has been wiped 44 fucking times. So at this point, he's probably eating pea soup and loving it. I'm surprised he doesn't have like a little drool mark coming off of him.
Probably just snorts gunpowder in between.
Yes. He's just over there eating bullets. All right. He grapples with the fragments. He's the gunsmith. So this is where I didn't deal with him a lot during Destiny 1. If anybody else wants to hop in, I have no idea what he did in Destiny 1 really. Outside of maybe
honestly
missions.
No, honestly, like right around like with Vanilla, he didn't really do shit.
Ooh, Banshee.
Yeah, I mean, because all you could really do from him,
buy like blue weapons off of him, and that was it.
Yeah, I mean, initially he was strictly just a weapon vendor for early on stuff.
And all right, special and heavy ammo. I think he had. And
you could get synths. I think you could get synths from him early on too, but other than that, they didn't really. Up until, well, we'll get into changes later, but up until later on, they really didn't do much with him.
No.
Yeah. Cool. Well, we have Santa Claus, everybody. This is Xur. Xur caused the fucking community to lose their shit when he sold a weapon really early that nobody could get. What did he sell? He sold the Gallarhorn like
Week one.
It was like week one or week 2. Yeah.
Yeah, it was really early. And at that time nobody really knew. This is just like the fun. He's the Santa Claus. He brings cool shit to the wherever, and he's an agent of the 9. Who are the 9?
Who the fuck knows?
Yeah. Exactly. My arms go out. But yeah, he brings you like the exotic engrams that you can buy off of him, shards that the exotic weapons and armor turn into. Cool ass weapons. Well, some of cool.
He also brought early on. I mean, he still does, but that was the only way early on, like with your sparrows, that you could actually get the legendary. Yeah, you were able to actually get the legendary sparrows by buying the engines from him and equipping them to your blue sparrows that actually upgrade them.
No,
which
I've
is kind
never
of
done that.
I did it for the Age of Triumph ones to get my sparrows. Some lame. But yeah, nobody knows his nature or purpose. He's just there to give us goodies for some reason. Maybe
He
it's
doesn't
like
even have control over where he shows up.
I know. It's like, yeah, Zera's here, and he's like, just fucking kill me.
Well, what's actually kind of neat with him though too, and I don't know.
Besides octopus face.
Besides his octopus face, what's kind like, I mean, granted now he goes to other locations, but you can actually tell whether he's at the tower or he's in another location by as soon as you spawn in, on one of the pillars there's actually the little 9 symbol on the right by the step.
I just learned that today, actually. I was looking up like some of the stuff for this, and I was like, oh, I never knew that.
Yeah. It's like as soon as you spawn in, if you look on the little like planter thing, the symbol's there. There's also, I mean, I don't know if you saw the little like Latin phrasing by the stairs too.
Mm-hmm.
Which that was pretty neat. Little touches.
Yeah, little touches that they never give you time to go look at because you're always going for the next raid. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Next, we have Lord Shaxx. Well, real quick, what's everybody's favorite Lord Shaxx quote?
It's simple. This is amazing.
This is amazing.
I don't know.
7th column.
I like Fight Forever, Guardian.
Fight forever. Yeah, 10 kills. He's the he's the Crucible dude, basically. He's just there to like let you know what you're doing in Crucible. He's also like the main commenter on it. He's like the John Madden of when you're in PvP.
Yeah.
But he's best known for for the Battle of Twilight Gap, which has an awesome name, and if you ever have a chance, go look it up. But to the quick and dirty of that, he led a counterattack that pushed the Fallen from the city walls. He stays in the city to protect it. He feels his I think it's like similar to like, it's like kind of the opposite of Cade, where he wants to be out there because he knows he can do more good out. He feels he can do more good out in the wild. Shaxx is kind of the guy that like stays in the city because he knows he wants to mentor the Guardians and everything in the Crucible, and wants to basically secure the city, which is very awesome.
But even with him, as you're saying about like the commentary with him, up until really in the last, I'd say maybe year, he wasn't nearly as excitable.
Yeah.
No, they definitely ramped that up over time.
But do you remember when they first ramped him up, how much louder he was?
Oh man, he
was loud as fuck. And then all of a sudden, like in the next patch they put out, it was like toned him down a little.
Yeah, they had to tone him down because they even threw me off the one time I got 10 kills, and he was like, "Fight for!" I'm like, it's like looking around like,
whoa.
Who's yelling?
Now
Why
my
are you
ears
yelling at me?
Yeah, now that my ears are bleeding, shit.
I am. I will fight forever. Thank you. A quick aside, the actor who does his voices, I know we're not a voice cast yet, but he was at a party and he was talking, but there were kids in the other room like playing. They were actually playing Destiny at the time, and as they were playing, they were in Crucible, and they could hear him talking out in like the hallway or something like that. and they're like really throwing him off by hearing Shaxx over here talking, hearing Shaxx on the TV talking.
Why does Shaxx want a beer?
I just want to be at that party, but anyway,
Drink
anyways,
forever, Guardian.
I'll just keep getting drunk and feeding him beer and see if he starts like saying anything Destiny wise.
Spouting Shaxx lines.
Next we have Lord Saladin. He's another Titan. He's the protege to. Oh, he's not the protege. But he led the city's defense during the Battle of Twilight Gap, and something happened there where Shaxx and Zavala kind of parted ways.
Well,
but he leads the Iron Banner. Oh, go ahead.
Well, the main thing with that though is the biggest rift was when Shaxx basically decided to do his little, counterattack that ended up saving the city. Yeah. That's basically what caused the big rift between everybody, because they initially wanted him to stay back and kind of play defensive, and he said, "Fuck this, I'm going in and taking him out," and he did, and it worked obviously, but it caused.
But it was a huge gamble on on Zavala's part, and it risked too much.
A lot.
Yeah. Well, he's the leader of Iron Banner, which seeks great champions to lead the fight against the darkness. It's really just like he believes power matters, so like instead of handcuffing the Guardians by like saying, well, everybody's kind of their own little fair thing, he's like, you are powerful, you are not. He will kill you.
Well, what it is though too, like the Crucible in general is made as it's a training ground.
It's a training ground for the Guardians, yeah.
Yep. Right. Whereas the Iron Banner is kind of made to get rid of the weak.
Yeah, and then it's for people to show off how powerful they've become through their training. Yeah.
Oh, and then we finally have this little guy. Well, he's not really little, he's kind of a robot, but you got the Sweeper Bot. Any favorite stories about the Sweeper Bot? I know what mine is.
Mine...
Talking about vanilla Destiny? I don't know.
I might be talking about overall because
mine. Yeah, I'm just talking overall Sweeper Bot. Mine is definitely when he's making snow angels.
You stole it.
That is my all-time favorite Sweeper Bot moment. Later on there was just a little DLC that they put out, a little update and everything, and snow everywhere, and you go over this big snow pile, and fucking Sweeper Bot's just laying in it making snow angels.
It didn't show up every time you were in there, though. You'd have to.
It was random.
Kind of times.
My favorite Sweeper Bot moment, since we're like all encompassing, is when it lost its broom.
Oh yeah,
that's sad.
It would have the best thing though. Its broom led to one of the coolest sparrows in the whole fucking game.
Oh my god, I'm so sad they took it away.
Yep. Oh, that was sad though. He's just standing there going through the motions.
Just meep, meep, meep. Just all sad and shit. I don't know. I thought it was funny. Anyway.
Poor guy.
Either that or when it's whistling in the first mission of Destiny 2.
Oh yeah. Still sweeping away though.
The tower is going to shit. It's just sitting there sweeping and whistling a happy tune. Like, really? Anyway. So is that it for the NPCs?
That's it for for the as far as vanilla.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, and I guess we're going into the story.
What story?
That's what I had there in the outline for the placeholder. But anyway, so essentially, as you guys know now, since we've gone over it, you are in control of a Guardian. But to become a Guardian, you had to be resurrected. So at the beginning of the game, it shows a ghost. He's flying around searching for a Guardian and finds you. I guess in your previous life, you must have been some kind of a warrior. So he resurrects you, you become a Guardian, and then you go talk to the speaker. And that's when you find out about the darkness. That's the ever-looming danger.
You know, it's kind of sad, though, for ghosts that they're basically, like, constantly just, like, searching.
Aimlessly wandering.
Yeah.
Well, that's what they're made for. You know, the traveler used its last bit of energy to create the ghosts, to then go out and find these bodies to turn into. We weren't even considered guardians at first, but
Yeah.
you know, that took some time. There were warlords and people that abused the power of the light, and then it was actually Saladin and the Iron Lords who turned everything to the positive, and they're the ones who made it so that people with power used it for good. But that's getting into a bunch of lore stuff. If you want to check out lore, check out Focus Fire Chat. They have a lot of good lore stuff on Podbean. But anyway, as you hear about the darkness, you travel to Earth. You find Rasputin, who is a Warmind, which is a piece of technology that they used in the Golden Age. But he's acting with an unknown objective, and you track down some codes for an array that connects the old colonies throughout the solar system. So this is us trying to, you know, not only keep ourselves from becoming extinct, but we're trying to reestablish ourselves on our own planet and the other colonies that we had. But as you're doing that, you find out Rasputin is actually controlling the array for who knows what reason. That's actually what
fucking cloak and dagger.
Yeah,
Sneaky Russian.
It's one of my favorite missions. The last array.
Yeah, that's a
on
badass
Earth.
mission.
It's
has
a
really
great
good music.
mission. Yeah, it does. I mean,
Is that
kind of what kept me in playing the game. But
is that the one though that ends when you actually open up the array?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I think I thought was cool with that too, and I never really noticed it too much when I first was playing the game, but like with going back and playing through it more, it's neat actually physically being able to actually watch the whole array, like
actually turning and everything.
opening and turning. Because I mean, when I first started playing it, you know, when you're barely leveled, you're not really looking out for shit like that.
Yeah, you're just trying not to die.
Yeah. And then, you know, when you got to go back, well, when like I started replaying through it at a higher level, I was like, all right, nothing can really kill me right now. Oh, that's pretty neat.
Yeah. Yeah, it is pretty awesome how they put that in there. Considering even that when this game launched, it was on the 360 and the PS3. It was a pretty large undertaking to make a game at the scale that Bungie was trying to accomplish on 4 different platforms.
Systems. Yeah.
But you get some information and you fly off to the moon, trying to, I guess, find out what Rasputin was working on. You come across this guardian that has no ghost. It's kind of just laying dead on the ground. You trying to find out where the light is that it once drew its power from, and then, we've woken the hive.
Oh God! If I hear that one more time, I swear to God.
We've woken the hive.
We've woken the hive.
250 to 500,000 times at least. I farmed that many times for Glimmer and stuff, but. You defeat the waves of hive. I think it's an ogre that you kill at the end of that mission.
Wizard.
That's a wizard.
That's a wizard. Okay, my bad.
That came from the moon.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. Oh, that wonderful line. The Exo Stranger appears. You guys talk briefly, and then she, you know, just disappears like she always does.
Does she? I don't think she talks in that mission.
No, she just shows up.
Oh yeah, she's just on the mountaintop.
She's up on the cliff, sort of just staring down at you, and then
creep.
Like tisk tisk tisk.
She's just peering out from behind.
Me.
So as we're all powerful guardian, you continue to just, you know, wreak havoc and kill a bunch of shit on the moon. Then you end up destroying the Sword of Crota. Which, I mean, who the fuck is Crota? Just wait and you shall see.
Maybe.
So, perhaps, if you're here for the next couple episodes. Anyway, the Exo Stranger tells the Guardians, hey, you need to go to Venus. She's very short with what she says. So, you know, being the Guardian, we're just looking for a fight and trying to protect humanity. So we go to Venus, where we find the Vex, those freaking mechanical enemies.
Cyborg.
Yeah, the cyborg NPC enemy thingies. And the stranger says the worst line in any form of anything.
Go for it.
But basically, she doesn't have time to explain what she doesn't have time to explain.
Oh,
Right? I mean, come on.
Yep.
Where did this writing come from? We'll get into that a little bit. Crayon, and after many, many drinks. I wonder if that's what Jason Jones said to one of the Bungie employees one night. After a long day of working, they're just throwing back a few, and he's like, you know what? I don't have time to explain what I don't have time to explain. And the other guy's like, holy shit! And he wrote that down. That's gold. Yeah, that's going in the game.
It's right up there with Martha.
So, not only the Vex trying to kill us, but the stranger tells us that the Vex are evil. Like, hello? And the Black Heart needs to be destroyed. So the ghost says, hey, the people at the reef can help us out. So we go and speak to the Awoken. This is where we meet Marisa for the first time, and her
and they
asshole
have cool eyes
of a brother. Yeah, the Awoken look really cool with like their purplish skin and their eyes and shit. Cool race all around. But Marisa and her brother give us some information. They tell us we need to go and get the head of a Gate Lord. So we locate the archive.
Eye of the Gate Lord. You need the eye of it.
No, you get the head of it.
Yeah, but you need the eye.
Yeah, you need the eye.
Yeah, the eye, because that's what.
Yeah.
Computes whatever the fuck. Yeah.
With that mission though, they're basically. I mean, it was more or less her asshole brother that tells you that, because, in theory, it's a suicide mission, is what it really is.
For him.
He says there is one way to do it, but you'd never get it done.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah,
sissy. I can't do it. I need you guys to do it, and you won't get it done because reasons.
That's honestly though, from completing that mission, from the Gate Lord is probably one of my favorite like cutscenes. When you just
because it's coming out of the thing and coming at you.
When you just no, like after you end up killing the Gate Lord, it's like you come in. The cutscene back at the reef is like you. You're talking to him, all of a sudden the head
throw it on the floor.
Drops.
Yeah. Like, oh yeah, now what, huh? You want to question our authority again? Asshole. Anyway, so we locate the archive, guarded by a lot of Fallen, and we get some information about some trivial things about the Vault of Glass and pathways through the galaxy that the Vex are using to try and conquer everything, because they want to be the only powerful being in existence. The Guardians take down the Vex Gate Lord, and that's when you go and drop the head or the eye at the foot of the Queen and say, how you like me now? And that's when the Queen informs the Guardian that we need to go to Mars with the eye of the Gate Lord, because that's where the entrance to the Black Garden is. So, we get to Mars. We're greeted by a lot of cuddly space turtles, known as the Cabal.
They bring us flowers and they pet our heads.
Yeah, they bring us flowers, but then they squirt them in our face because they're actually big fucking jerks.
Jerks.
Yeah. They've been there trying to decrypt the Vex's gates and stuff and learn more about the Black Garden itself. After the Guardians head to the Garden Spire to charge the Eye, then they head to the Buried City to seek more tech wonders. And we actually find that Rasputin has taken over that AI as well because, I don't know, reasons.
Yeah, nobody it was a whole other war mine that they never really even talked about.
Yep.
Yeah. So many missed opportunities. But we go back to the Black Garden and, we kick some ass through like 5 million Vex or, 25 million depending on your perspective. We then stumble upon the creepiest Vex who are just kind of kneeling and they're worshipping this. It's like a glowing black gelatinous blob that's kind of just floating in space. Very weird. We
could have put a fucking Jello mold there and they would have been worshipping it, idiots.
Probably. I mean, if it was, I don't know where I was going.
That could have been like the actual other mission is instead of like taking on all the Vex, what we do is we do a black Jello mold and put it up there and see if they still worship it.
See if they worship it.
So we don't have to actually fight them.
That would have been freaking glorious.
A thing with that too is though with those Vex actually that you see at the Black Garden, that's the first time that you actually see the more of the like ancient Vex as well.
Yeah,
like
the more tribal types.
Yeah, earlier on you see just your typical robot ones, and then as you go through the actual Black Garden, once you teleport into there, you see the more ancient race of them, where they've got all the like moss and leaves and God knows what growing on them.
Yeah, they're like frozen in time, and then they start moving. That freaked me out the first time I played that mission.
See, that was one of those moments where as I'm walking through, and I noticed it now too, you actually can see there's the few that are
red on the radar before they even start moving.
Well, not only that, if you actually look, there's a few of them actually glowing red as you're walking through there, which I never noticed the first time.
Yeah.
Because the first time I just ran through that part, like just ran all of a sudden, I went, oh, fuck. But yeah, now if you actually sort of slowly walk through, you can see a couple on left and the right, they're actually activated, basically.
Yeah. Alright, so you wipe out the 25 million Vex, you kill these creepy ones that are worshipping this glowing blob, and I guess it senses our presence and the threat, so it spawns, well, there's 3 statues in the area, and one at a time they turn into giant minotaur-like enemies that you just destroy. Evidently, that was the key to destroying the heart of the Black Garden, because you kill the minotaurs and then it just blows up. And then you're back on Mars. You return to the tower. People are celebrating, throwing confetti and, dried rice in your face. The extra stranger shows up for the last time and tells us that this ain't over.
And that's when you also get the stranger's rifle.
Yeah, she gives you her rifle and then she disappears, and that's basically it for the vanilla story.
Oh. Yeah.
What the fuck am I doing? I looked over to my girlfriend after I did this, and she was like, "Oh, you finished that already?" I was like, "Yeah, I don't know what the fuck I just did though."
Well, I mean, that was sort of the problem too. Was that's where they lost a lot of people right then and there because, with what we're gonna start going into is the
actual end game content that people didn't understand.
But yeah, I mean, a lot of people, initially with vanilla, your level cap was 30 was your level cap in vanilla.
Yeah.
30 was your level cap, but like most people, once they hit level 20, kind of just cut out. I mean, didn't really do a lot. But yeah, once they finished the story, the big end game activity was the raid, which was their big 6-person go through.
Basically the best PvE content in the game.
Yeah,
it's like some of the best PvE content in just about any game.
Yeah, in general.
let's be honest with this one. No other like PvE game, shooter especially, ever thought of like, hey, maybe we should take a concept that was like made famous with all these MMOs and try to apply it to this.
Well,
so it's pretty great.
I mean,
not exactly an easy undertaking either.
That's what I was gonna say. It's not the easiest thing to try to
no, not at all.
Take, because I mean, you look at all that goes into like your MMO type raids, and I forget where the hell. I don't know if it was an article or somewhere where I was reading that though. I think it might have been a video that Bungie put out when they're talking. I think it was with Luke Smith or somebody about talking about the raids and stuff, and they said, it was really hard to try to get across what you would do in like an MMO raid without cluttering the screen and do it, because I mean,
without spamming.
Yeah,
right,
like all the buffs and debuffs that are on your character at any given point, and
so I mean that was a big undertaking. But I mean, Vanilla Destiny, you got the Vault of Glass, which to this day is still my favorite raid to do.
I don't know if it's just because being a day one player and that was the first raid experience we had. That could be a part of it, but like mechanically, it's great. The combat is amazing. Like the encounters are just so well done, and the raid it holds up.
I mean, now that they've fixed a lot of the shit that you could kind of get by certain parts with, because at that time, I mean, with their first raid, I mean, you were able to essentially bypass more or less 2 of the bosses by pushing them off the map with grenades.
Yeah.
The Templar, I mean, but with Vault of Glass, essentially the story behind it, which it doesn't really make a lot of sense. Again, you don't really know why you're going there, but it says, hey, there's this thing on Venus called the Vault of Glass. Go check it out. And you find out a lot more now, obviously, when they started giving you more backstory, but you basically end up descending into this thing called the Vault of Glass. Starts off with there's 3 plates. You have to basically open up the door by forming the spire, which is a pretty neat little way to do it. And what actually I find pretty cool about that too is it's in an open patrol space. So anybody who's just patrolling Venus, they can't join you for the raid, obviously, but they can come in and shoot the enemies too that you're killing, trying to keep the plate safe, which I thought was kind of neat.
Yeah, and for those that don't know, patrol is just you loading into a planet, and there's like little missions that you can do. You can collect materials and such. So that's where you run into a lot of other people that are playing the game that happen to be in the same instance as yourself.
And basically, the Vault of Glass essentially is a place where the Vex are able to control time and reality. And we find out sort of later, and again, look at, say Focus Fire Chat, they do a really good job going into the lore behind this. But there's, Kabir, Pradith, there's a few other guards. Basically started off as a fire team that went in and they got lost in time. And really the rough gist of it is Kabir ends up sacrificing himself to enable the Guardians to defeat Atheon in the Vault of Glass. He basically sacrifices himself to create the Aegis shield, which you end up using at a few parts, and it actually cracks a hole in the Vault of Glass, more or less, is what he does too. And honestly, it's a fucking awesome story.
It just wasn't there at the beginning because people didn't really understand like how lore fit into the actual event until later on, and going into more detail on certain things.
But yeah, I mean, your bosses is you have the Templar and his oracles. There's the Gorgons. There's also now he's more of a boss than what he was in the original Vault of Glass. But there's the Gatekeeper. Which at the time in Vanilla Destiny, you could basically, as soon as the door opened to where the Gatekeeper was, you could just sit back with sniper rifles and just unload into him, and he would not move. Now it's a little bit different, but
yeah.
And then finally you find Atheon, who is basically the Time Lord person.
Yeah, he's the Vex Time Lord, I think is what his name is.
Atheon.
Atheon.
It's still Atheon.
It's Atheon for me.
And basically from beating Atheon, it doesn't really do much for you.
You essentially slow down the Vex's progress of being able to control time completely and take over all that we know.
It's kind of the meaning to most of the raids is you didn't defeat them, you slowed down their progress though.
The one thing though with Vault of Glass compared to the other raids that I thought was interesting, I mean, because obviously you replay the raids to get raid gear, and in vanilla, the biggest thing was always, Forever 29, because everyone could not get that last piece of fucking raid gear to drop. And that was the only way initially that you could actually hit level cap, was by playing through the raid. So if you didn't have a fire team to do it with, you'd never be able to really gain much level beyond 26, I want to say, something like that. So I think you can go in at like 26, 27.
And be severely underleveled.
But what was cool though, I mean, with Vault of Glass, what is kind of neat though, it gives a little, not lore behind it, but with like being able to go in multiple times. The way that they actually described it in somewhere I think Bungie, they talked about it, was like, since basically Atheon does control time, every time you go in and wipe and do this, that, and the other, it's just a new instance, basically. And actually, with this game, the biggest thing with the raids that come about is the world's first contest, if you want to call it that. Vault of Glass.
The prick waving contest.
Yep. Everyone whipped out their penises to try to.
And then they fight over it.
Yep. Like Vault of Glass, though, it took you about It took the first team 14 hours, which is a long ass time, really.
Yeah.
But aside from the raids, you also have the strikes, which are kind of best comparisons, sort of firefight mode in Halo. And with the strikes, you actually do them through. They're sort of a part of the story. So initially, when you hit around level 8, you get the Devil's Lair, where you fight our buddy Sepix Prime. It's the Prime server to the House of Devils, and it's essentially my first strike. So it's not a lot to it. You basically just go through. You kill a bunch of enemies. You end up killing Sepix at the end. And actually the first raid that really had it, or the first strike, I should say, that had a little cheese spot too. When you're trying to wait for the little lasers to go, you could always just run down the little cave and sit there and kill everything and not have to worry. When you're on the moon, you get to do the summoning pits, where you jump into the Hellmouth and you fight a big ass ogre, and the best way to defeat him is by tickling his belly.
Gotta get that crit spot, yo.
Absolutely. Moving forward, you had two strikes on Venus. There's the Nexus, and obviously you get to beat the crap out of some more Vex. But what sucked about him in particular was the fucking splash damage on him was absolutely ridiculous.
They turned that shit up to
the
11.
Nexus? Yeah, my god.
Oh, it was terrible. And especially too when you got when that came into like the Nightfall, for instance. When it was Void Burn initially, that sucked. I mean, it sucks now, but at that time it was
damn near impossible. Yeah.
Because and then Venus also, you got Winter's Run, and you basically had to take down the Archon priest, who they basically explained that that he was somewhere trapped in the Prison of Elders, which we'll get to most likely next week, but he was trapped there, and somehow he got onto Venus. And with that one, another one where there was which they ended up patching, was the little cheese spot underneath the. There's two. There's one you can get up on the rocks when you first drop into where he is. You could sit up on those rocks and just snipe him, or there was the other one. You could get underneath a platform and just basically nothing could hit you underneath the platform too. They patched both of those.
As they should.
Of course they did, jerks.
Absolutely. And then we move forward onto Mars, where you got the Cerberus Vase strike, your first take of the Cabal. And this is the first one that was really, like, I don't want to call it multi-parts, but where you had sort of two bosses to deal with. About halfway through the strike, you had to fight this big-ass Goliath tank, which that thing even now royally sucks.
Yeah, it'll one
shot.
What? Yeah. We did it we were helping one of our clanmates, and she wasn't quite 40, and we did it like with the was it the actual whatever level this is, like the earliest level, and the thing still one shots still one shot a level 400 light level Guardian.
Well, the thing is, what always killed me on that one too is not necessarily being aware of my surroundings, where there would be just a ledge or cliff or something behind me, and not thinking it shoots. I jump over, it still hits that and blows me up.
Yeah.
And then you better get your ass ready, because your final boss, good old Rocket McDickface, also known as Valis Ta'Arok.
So much health when it first came out.
Yeah.
Yeah, but see, the thing was, though, with him, and again, one of the few strikes that you actually had the little cheese spot with him too. I don't know if there's about that one too. But there's on the left side of the arena, basically, I'll call it, when he comes out that door, you can actually get behind those stairs and just sit behind the boxes and just snipe away at them.
I like to jump up to the ceiling.
Oh, up on the little chandeliers or on the little. But the thing was with him, initially he was a bullet sponge, and but then they made some changes with him midway through Destiny's life cycle, and then they kind of made him, I think, almost too easy now.
Yeah, he's really easy now.
They basically went from one extreme to the other with him, unfortunately. Couldn't really find that in between. But last but not least, you have again with dealing with the Cabal on Mars, you have the Dust Palace, which was at the time actually with Vanilla, it was a PlayStation exclusive. And you end up fighting some scions at the end, and
Huey, Dewey, and Louie.
Basically, but was neat. What was neat about them was instead of just having you plow through the level, you get giant bullet sponge boss. You had 3 smaller bullet sponges, but each one represented the 3 different elements in the game too. You had the void one. There's a solar and an arc flare. Yeah. So you actually had to change up your strategy a little bit and focus.
Yeah, whenever you dropped one too, you'd get more enemies that would flood in there, and with certain like modifiers on there, having multiple colossi on the map is no bueno. So like some of the strats could be like take them down as get their health down as far as you can, then take all 3 of them out like pretty close to each other, so that way you don't have to deal with the flood.
Right.
Hey, this isn't Halo.
Oh.
But I mean, I know you said when you were doing some research, you had found out some interesting crap, Drake, when you were kind of looking into it a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, there's a good amount of interesting crap. It was developed to be, I think we talked about this a little bit earlier, but it was developed to be an FPS game such as Halo with an MMOs like WoW, and to be like a first like shared world experience using first-person shooters, which is really cool because you don't really get to interact with people on most first-person shooters outside of teabagging them.
Yeah,
that's always delightful. And it was supposed to launch. Yeah, look at my nuts. It was supposed to launch on September of 2013, but like any software, sometimes things happen, and we'll get to that a little bit later. Yeah. The music for Vanilla had vanilla music. That sounds delicious. But anyways, had a bunch of people working on it. Marty O'Donnell, Michael Salvatore, C. Paul Johnson, Sky Lewin, and Stan Lepard. Also, there was a contribution by Sir Paul McCartney. You actually see that in the credits too. It's a little Easter egg they threw in there. That, yeah, he actually shows up in there. I bet whoever got the right that in there high-fived the person next to him. This was the last of Marty O'Donnell's work for Bungie, which if you ever have a chance, feel free to read more about that. It's a pretty interesting story.
Yeah.
Also, yeah, the soundtrack included 44 different instrumental compositions from the game, which, for a video game, it's pretty awesome. These aren't always considered like Hollywood blockbusters, but like to get that much stuff going is really awesome. We have a litany of voice acting going on here. Oof. All right, let's start out with Nathan Fillion. You'll know him from such hits as Firefly. I've never watched it. And my personal favorite, one of the horror movies. What was it? He did it with James Gunn. Oh, it's on the tip of my tongue. I don't remember it right now. I'll get back to it later. He played Cade Six. And in Vanilla Destiny, I will note that he sounded bored as fuck. Yeah. I think we can all agree on that. Like, okay, Guardian, go do this. I'm just gonna sit here and type something. You have Lance Reddick. He's on Lost. He's been in a lot of TV shows. He always has a really good voice. He plays Zavala. He was Silence on
Horizon.
He was on Horizon Zero Dawn as well. We have Gina Torres. who plays Ikora Ray. She was in Firefly as well, so it's a little reunion for her and Mr. Nathan Fillion. She was also in The Shield. I remember seeing her in there. We have this is a fun one. Peter Dinklage as the ghost. He was in such movie hits as Tiptoes. And if you're listening to this, type that in the old YouTube machine and watch the trailer for that movie. It's probably the funniest thing you'll ever see. But he was also in some shitty show called Game of Thrones.
One more week.
Or something like that.
Next Sunday.
We have James Remar, who's best known as the father in Dexter, like the one he keeps seeing. Not his father, but like the father figure. He was also in the first season is the only season you need to watch. But this is not a Dexter podcast. He was also in a cool ass movie called The Warriors, which had recently, probably 7 or 8 years ago, had a video game. He plays Executor Hideo. We have Peter Stormare, who is Arak Jalal. He played one of the bad guys. He put Steve Buscemi in the wood chipper in Fargo. He's like a character actor. He does voices in games. He did the psychiatrist in Until Dawn, which is free this month on PlayStation Plus. And he was the devil, or he was Satan in Keanu Reeves's version of John Constantine. We have Bill Nighy, who plays the speaker. He was in Shaun of the Dead and Underworld. John DiMaggio, this is a favorite of a lot of people. He does the voice for Banshee 44. He plays the Joker when Mark Hamill doesn't feel like doing it for the DC animated movies. But he was Bender on Futurama. We have Lenny James, who's we talked about him earlier. He plays Lord Shaxx. He's known for being in The Walking Dead. But he's also he's known for Snatch, the movie, not genitalia.
Thanks
and
for
last but
clarifying.
not least, yeah, I did put her on the list, but and she probably will never come back to this series after how many people made fun of her. Lauren Cohen, she did the voice of the Exo Stranger, and she's known for The Walking Dead and Supernatural.
Maybe not so much made fun of her, more of how her character was portrayed.
Yeah, the lines that they made her say.
Yeah. Wow, a lot of big names. I mean, it's Bungie, Activision.
Hey, I pay that money. Activision gave them some money. Do these words.
But they don't have time.
No.
To explain why they don't have time to explain.
It hurts my head. Some of the Easter eggs you can find throughout Destiny in its vanilla form. If you, excuse me, during the Gardens Spire mission, if you actually go and look at the tower, it looks kind of resembles some Master Chief character from some other game that I think Bungie may have had something to do with.
I think it was called Hello or something like that.
It's actually not the actual tower. On that though, it's not the actual tower itself. It's actually one of the Cabal buildings.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at one of the
tower we know of,
right?
Yeah.
Okay. It's one of the Cabal, one of their little towers that you have to go into. It actually it looks like his freaking helmet.
Yeah, I mean you see it a lot. There's a lot of comparisons that you can make between architectural design choices that they made, and even the armor that some of the characters wear. You see a little resemblance of Master Chief in there.
Never.
No. Not at all.
Bungie doesn't do that in their games. Mm-mm. Next, you're going to tell me they do ARG for their games.
Why would they do that?
Whatever. In the tower, there are 7 coins. 7 is a number that Bungie is just obsessed with. Nobody really knows why.
We just missed Bungie Day by 2 days. Why are we doing it on this day? Jeez.
Because I was at work on Friday.
I know.
The tower itself actually has a lot of fun stuff for you to do. There's this glowy ball. It's a big purple ball, and it glows whenever you interact with it. There's also a soccer ball, which I didn't learn about until a couple of weeks after I started playing the game. I saw another Guardian just randomly kicking a soccer ball around the tower. I'm like, holy shit, where did that come from? And then I found it and kind of went from there. But there's a secret button. If you go up the stairs on the way to Tower North, there's a stairway. You walk up the stairs and you go to the railing. Like, there's not even a freaking button there. It just randomly pops up on your screen. Hold square to activate. And when you do that, it like super powers the fan above the postmaster, and you can shoot guardians up into the air and just have fun. Tower, I don't know if it's called Tower South, but underneath the hangar area there is actually a lounge, and they have this iPod looking thing, and you can play music down there as well. Another Easter egg, or used to be, was the loot cave also, where many players spent many hours not playing the game the way Bungie intended and just farmed a bunch of enemies to collect a lot of engrams.
Hey, they created that problem. At least that's what they would say.
I may have sat at the loot cave.
That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, I may have sat there for, a couple of hours myself. Excuse me.
It was great when you saw, though. It was great, though, like when you saw the purple drop, though. It was rewarding.
Yeah, and that was the problem, because you were being rewarded for standing in one spot. The first time I even found out about it was me going through the Skywatch, and I noticed like a group of guardians just standing on a hill. I'm like, what the hell are these guys doing? And then I would kill the enemies coming out of the cave, or I would go into the cave, and I noticed that they started shooting at me. And I didn't know why, but then kind of found out through going on the interwebs and my clan at the time. So it was fun.
Hey, dickhead, get out of there!
Well, yeah, then
All
you'd run into those people though who would actually do it purposefully. You just see them like run in and just
and they would just sit. Yeah.
And that's when you go to orbit and come back. It's fine.
Yep. This is where we start getting into like the nitty-gritty of what happened while the game was being developed.
What the fuck happened?
And why we ended up with the story that we ended up with. Excuse me. So, during the development process, and I think it was mid-2013, Jason Jones was brought this supercut that Joe Staten and his writing team had put together. Now, the supercut contains all of the cutscenes that they made for the game, and they wanted to show them to the higher-ups so they can get the approval. Well, Jason Jones didn't like how the cutscenes and the supercut itself made Destiny feel like a more linear experience, because Bungie's plan was to make this expanding world, and they wanted players to choose how they wanted to progress, and they didn't want to just feel like you were just on a frozen rope going from one place to the other. So at that point, in the middle of 2013, which is the major reason why it didn't launch in September of 2013, they decided to scrap the whole fucking thing, and they started to try and rebuild. Excuse me. So a few things in the original supercut which will kind of help make sense as far as where Bungie was trying to go, or where the writers were trying to go with the story. In the original supercut of the story, the player is actually trying to find Rasputin and help rescue him from the Hive, because they've actually kidnapped him and brought him to the to the Dreadnought.
Wasn't Rasputin like an exo at the time too? He wasn't even like Yeah,
the screenshot of the exo stranger sitting down with a rifle beside him and what looks like blood, that was meant to be an exo that Rasputin was controlling remotely. So in essence, it was the embodiment of Rasputin.
Yeah.
But that never made the game. So we didn't talk anything about the Dreadnought throughout the whole thing. So, I mean, the Dreadnought is this huge hive ship. That, the European Dead Zone, and Osiris's Temple on Mercury were all supposed to be part of the base game itself, but they were cut during the restructuring process. And they used some of those assets because Osiris, when he was going to be in the game, he had this disciple with him. Now, they didn't put Osiris in there, they didn't put the disciple, but they used the character model of the disciple itself, and that's the Exo Stranger that we ended up getting. So that character model was originally going to be a disciple of Osiris who was going to help us progress through the story. The Crow was a thing. He was an NPC that we were supposed to meet pretty early on in the game.
I thought he was like a guy who got murdered and then came back to life to take on the people that murdered him.
Oh, Drake.
It's not me for once.
I like it. But, you know, that too was scrapped while they were trying to piece together the story or whatever was left after they dissected it.
It's like they blew up a body and we're just like trying to put parts back together.
Yeah, I mean, you could also be talking about Tusk if you're going that route. I don't know if you guys have seen that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of the weirdest, strangest films I've ever watched. But the character model of the Crow was used for Prince Aldrin Sov, who was, of course, the Queen's asshole brother. And during this time also, that's when Marty was fired from Bungie. There was some differences between him and the company. They said that he wasn't fulfilling his potential at the company and doing what he was supposed to, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. He won this lawsuit, made some money, got his name credited, what have you. But the bigger piece, I think, is Joe Staten, like the lead writer on the team, left.
Yep.
He left the company. So you have the lead writer and the guy who is basically in charge of composing the music, both left Bungie. One got fired, one left, whatever. So you get these people who are just trying to step in, take their place, and restructure the whole story and the story arc itself in about a year and a half. And it was at... Yeah, I mean, this was like mid-2013 when all of this like crumbled. And then it launched to September of 2014. So, yeah, about a year and 2 months. So not even a year and a half. But during this process is when Jason Jones himself developed the director interface. So before the restructuring, before they scrapped this linear story model, the director wasn't even a thing. And that is what we use now to, you know, pick Earth, and then I want to go do this strike, or I want to do this mission. And that's where they felt comfortable knowing that the players would be able to pick and choose where they would like to travel to and
where they wanted to go and everything.
Yeah, pick the encounters that they do.
I mean, this shit happens all the time. The problem is it just happened at the worst possible time. This was all, you know, guaranteed like a learning experience where instead of like kind of sitting back, I mean, I'm not saying they were like sitting back, but it was just kind of like, all right, we kind of, you know, you got a few of the teams all at once coming in saying, oh, this is where we're going with it and everything. Oh, cool, awesome. And then like you watch the supercut and just watch his face like turn fucking pale because, oh my God, we can't do this.
Well, and like you said earlier in the show too, Drake, Bungie brought on a lot of people with the investment from Activision. They were able to hire and have a larger team. So I don't know if it was just the growing pains of getting the new people in, or they didn't want to, I don't know, micromanage too much, so they didn't really pay attention to what the story team was doing. Whatever the reason, I certainly hope they've learned from that, and it seems like they have with the tidbits that we've gotten about Destiny 2 so far. So,
well, what they've also been doing, and I mean, you can see it, and we'll kind of discuss this as we go through, you know, the next couple of weeks, but like, they've definitely brought in, like, instead of just strictly Bungie doing everything with Activision's backing, they've brought in a lot of other smaller studios to handle a lot more of the workload,
Mm-hmm.
and to work on specific things so they can actually, so like the core Bungie group can focus on
The game,
yeah,
the mechanics, how the game runs, how the engine runs.
Yeah.
right,
These are key things that you. Well, today we're going to need you to be working on the engine, but tomorrow you're going to work on some armor and modifications for the armor. What?
Mm-hmm.
and I
Yeah.
mean with that you can definitely see big variances between sort of different companies doing sort of their own thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
and of
know,
course,
like,
Bungie has to sign off on it because at the end of the
Yeah.
day, it's their game. But you can certainly tell that there's different design influences that were used by the different artists. I mean, that's what they are. They're artists, you know.
Mhm.
So, but it's good that they have Vicarious Visions and High Moon Studios, and I think there's actually one other company that's assisting them now to ensure that they don't repeat what they went through with the first game. Fingers crossed, anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
But obviously, we've played this game.
No.
But
Never.
why don't we go through some of our personal experiences here?
I mean, me personally, I mean, I've been playing Destiny since the original beta when that first came out. And even like now, I'll still occasionally hop into Orbit. Not a lot, not nearly as much as, you know, it used to be, but I mean, shit, for the longest time, I was, you know, every day that I was on playing, I was glued to Destiny. Occasionally I'd play other things, but anymore, now I kind of will rarely come on for like raids, or if anybody needs help doing things, I'll still do that. I mean, as you said sort of earlier, I tend to spend most of my time in the Crucible aspect of it. um, it's fun. I mean, that's where I get the most enjoyment. I mean, I like PvE stuff. I mean, I like the raids; they're fun too. But Crucible is kind of just, I like just the classic sort of shooter aspect. I tend to lean towards, you know, Control or Clash more than anything because they're fun. And actually, with playing from the beginning too, you know, I've kind of stuck along. You know, I've seen the entire evolution of Destiny, and yeah, it's had its ups and downs, but I gotta say, it's been fantastic seeing what it's become from what it started with. Um,
Yeah.
it's been a hell of a jump, but it's been a neat little journey. And actually, that's how, well, the three of us kind of ended up getting together. And as you know, as you'll hear later on too, through, you know, everybody
In a
else's stories.
biblical way as well.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
But like, I mean, I was in a whole bunch of other groups, clans, because I mean that's the one thing with Destiny, they really try to push the whole clan aspect to it.
Yeah.
You know, with making the 6-person activities and this, that, and the other. And I mean, I was in a couple, and I mean, I will say this: anybody listening who's not in a clan right now, join one. It's going to be it makes the experience a lot better. Having a consistent group of people you can play with and just kind of become, I'll say friend, you know, become friends with a group of people. Like I've hopped around to a couple different clans and groups and so forth, and then, you know, I found this one, which is Oryx Wears Blue Jeans, and I mean, I've been playing with these guys for year, 2 years,
Shit,
year and a half.
it's coming up on a year for me.
It's been over a year or so.
About a year and a half.
Yeah. And I mean, it's a great group of people. I mean, that's how basically this show came about. But I mean, what about you guys? What do you got in the realm of Destiny?
I first heard about Destiny at one of the E3s because I'm a huge gaming nerd and I watch every one every year. So I saw it was by Bungie. I played Halo. I loved Halo, so I'm like, yeah, shit, this game's gonna be awesome. So I somehow magically ended up in the alpha. So I have been playing since literal day one, and it's been available to the public. May not have the most hours in the game, but there is definitely a point in time where Destiny was the only game that I would play. if my PlayStation was turning on, I was playing Destiny. That was it. Maybe the occasional Netflix, but Destiny, which I think drove my original clanmates a little crazy. My first clan was a bunch of people that I know in real life. We all enjoyed first-person shooters. We all got the game. We made a clan. But things change, life goes on. But I was just constantly wanting to play the game. I wanted to do PvE stuff because that's my bread and butter. Realistically, I like PvP, but I don't like the fact that I have to depend on other random people to play an objective because they never fucking do, and it drives me absolutely batshit insane. So I try to stick to PvE.
Or you're matched up with the Zimbabwe internet.
Yeah, or there's just red bars and everybody's glitching through walls, and I'm getting killed by snipers when I'm behind a wall going through a doorway. But the social aspect of Destiny is what keeps a lot of people playing. As DC mentioned, we met through Oryx Wears Blue Jeans. And although the game itself has a lot of, pitfalls or faults to it, as we've gone over throughout this entire episode, like the lack of story, the Exo Stranger who just basically was a useless character, but the core gameplay, as Drake mentioned, like I don't think I've ever played an FPS that had gunplay as solid as Destiny, and that's what keeps people like us playing the game. You just thoroughly enjoy the gameplay. The story sucks, there's not really a lot to it, but if I shoot stuff, it feels really damn good, and that's what I like. I like the game to be fun, and it's something that I enjoy. I don't play it a lot anymore, because I've basically accomplished everything I needed to do in the game thus far. My apologies to you guys in the clan. Like, I'm not really available all that often to help out with raids, but if I'm on, shoot me a message and I'll do what I can.
No.
Well, fine then. Fuck you. I used to be available every night for you guys, but my schedule changed. So
life comes at you hard, buddy.
Yeah.
I like coming hard. But I did not play this game at beta or launch because at the time all I had was a 360, and I really wanted to play it on PS4 because I knew I figured like any future ones would probably go onto that platform, and I didn't want to do that whole switching shit out. So I bided my time, and every few weeks I'd beg my girlfriend for a PS4. She'd tell me no, and I'd say I'll cook you a delicious meal, and she'd still say no. And then one day she saw the it was the Arkham Knight exclusive like PS4, which we didn't even end up getting. But she was like, "Oh my god, it looks awesome! Do you want a PS4?" And I was like, "Don't get too excited." Yeah, sure. So I finally got it. I started playing Destiny shortly after I bought that. It was like June of 2015. So like around July.
Almost a year after it came out, huh?
Yeah. So around July I started. I found it for like $20 at like Best Buy or something like that. I played it and I was like, oh wow, this is good. And then like 5 hours later, I'm like, that was it. All right, what else is there? So that's when I finally got like a PlayStation Plus account, or I got the PlayStation Plus and started like doing strikes and doing Crucible. I was like, oh, this is a lot of fun. Bought all the new DLCs. It wasn't until like Taken King came out that I was even in a clan. That was like people that I knew around here. Actually, it was one person that I knew around here and I got in with that clan. And then like a month after Taken King came out, they had already done everything, so they stopped playing. I was like, oh shit. So for like a few months, I was just kind of like going on LFGs, which I'm sorry, they suck. Then I heard these guys on a podcast, Guardian Radio. I was like, shit, I'll join this clan, and it's been magic ever since.
Ooh, baby.
And the weird thing is that first clan I'm in is now the Alliance clan or now we're in alliance with them, which is Soldiers First Class.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, that was my first clan. Yeah, that's my story. and I'm gonna stick to it. I think.
Well, I think it's good that you do.
Yeah. I mean, I started looking into because I mean, yeah, we do shit on Destiny for the lack of a lot of things, but when I started
following the flow of everybody.
well, yeah, I mean, when I started I sort of started looking at reviews and things like that, and I mean, it got rated pretty well. I mean, meta scores for PS4. I mean, it's got a 76 on PS4 and a 75 on Xbox One. The PS4 has got 95 different reviews. The Xbox has 11. And actually, I was browsing through them a little bit, and like, out of the 95 reviews, there's only one actual like red negative review. I didn't read it because it was a whole bunch of bullcrap, but they gave it like a 40 or some stupid shit.
Tell us how you really feel. Fuck these guys. I hope they die.
Yep. But like Game Informer ended up giving it an 88, basically quoting that even with some stumbles, the initial release is a huge achievement in interactive design, which I can agree with.
The landscapes are beautiful.
Oh, it's fucking gorgeous. PlayStation Lifestyle gave it an 85. And this is probably the best way to describe it. They called it a great prologue.
That's like getting back in action metal and Crucible.
Oh, I hate that one. But I mean, that's the best. I mean, I would say that is probably a pretty spot on way to describe it, though.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great prologue, and now with where it's at, I mean, a lot of the review sites too, not through Metacritic in particular, but like a lot of the review sites put out different reviews sort of for Destiny once all the DLCs and shit came out, and the numbers, a lot of them went up quite a bit because they really did make a lot of positive changes in that time. And then US Gamer, because I tried pulling one from just middle of the road. US Gamer gave it a 70, and a lot of other review sites and reviews in that like 70 or below margin kind of said that it felt like it wasn't complete when the game was shipped, which they're not wrong.
They're not wrong. No.
But looking into all the shit that happened with it, going into it, it makes sense why it feels so.
Yeah. Knowing the behind the scenes, it kind of helps the gamer understand the overall.
Right. No, they don't. The gamer don't give two shits. 90%. You go down to fucking Reddit. 90% of the shit you see, like a negative thing, just says, "Oh, it's lazy development." It's like, get off your fucking high horse. You're not a game developer. You're just like some asshole at his computer.
Yeah.
Couch warrior.
Yeah.
Some people just go
Keyboard
to the extreme
warrior.
regardless.
Oh yeah, of course.
But like, I mean, sales actually, I was sort of surprised about some of this though. And actually on September 10th of 2014, Activision claimed that Destiny had the most successful new gaming franchise launch, and they shipped over $500 million of product to retailers and like the first party sellers. That's a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a good chunk to ship out. Especially, I mean, granted, they are big, obviously Bungie and Activision, you're going to be able to spend that kind of money, but even still, that's on a new IP that's, well, half finished or whatever the fuck you want to call it. That's a lot of money out there. But then, about 3 months after the launch, Bungie actually sort of revealed that, that there was 13 million people who had played the game since launch. But again, see, the problem is Bungie always throws these numbers around, and I don't necessarily agree with how they're using it, because they use this, they just use the term registered users, and that could mean anybody that just logged on, made a character, and said, "Fuck this game, it's stupid." Or people like us who have been playing it for the past, 3 years and God knows how many hours put into it.
Still saying fuck this game, it's stupid.
And still say that, but continue to play it.
To kind of be a little devil's advocate, I mean, I can understand why Bungie would tout those numbers because it's still, in that sense, a financial success. Because if 13 or 20 million registered players, or whatever the freaking number is, means that they've sold that many copies, may not have been a huge critical success, you know, in the eyes of the players themselves, but at least they sold those units.
True. And actually, in 2014, which I don't know where they pulled exactly how the numbers from, but it was the third highest selling game of 2014 in the U.S., which if they're just going just strictly the year 2014, that's a lot of copies sold from, you know, September to December.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to be, you know, top 3 is pretty impressive.
About 4 months' time.
Yeah. And actually, I mean, for what the game was, it actually ended up winning a few different awards, and it was actually nominated for a lot more, but only won 3. At the 2015 BAFTA Awards, it won Best Game. At the Navigator Awards, I'll call it, again in 15, it actually won the Best Use of Sound for a New IP and Control Precision Award, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm assuming the Navigator Award, I didn't really look into it. It's more of just, it's a technical.
I think that's what it sounds for their UI design.
Yeah. Okay.
With how you select your armor, your weapons, and, you know, because you use the left thumbstick to navigate that little circle, and then you can select options with the X. I think it was like the first type of UI that was designed that way, and it works really freaking well.
It does.
Plus, whoever does the sound design on the game is fucking awesome.
Oh man, they go through so much to make the sounds. Huh.
The sound of the guns alone are amazing.
Just search Bungie Vidocs on freaking YouTube. Watch them.
Well, yeah. Even with that though, I think they've got. I mean, as far as like the gun sounds, since they've really, and, you know, they've actually introduced a lot more, like the different weapon companies and things like that. I think they really. It almost seems like that they bumped up the sounds on the weapons a little bit more, because like I remember vanilla, you didn't really notice. All right, I'm using this pulse rifle and then I'm using a different one from a different company. Whatever. And like now, you know, if I'm using like a Suros pulse rifle, it's got that distinct sound to it. You throw in a Hake one, it sounds a hell of a lot different, and so forth, which I think is pretty damn cool. And then, you know, even just the sounds of like fusion rifles and shit like that, those are...
The fusion rifles are awesome. That's one thing we didn't cover. We'll have to make sure and go over that next episode.
Weapons?
Weapon types, yeah. I can't believe we left that out. Then again, the show's been going over 2 hours now.
Little 2 hours.
2 hours.
I mean, problems. I mean, there was, you know, obviously some stuff that we had talked about earlier. You know, lack of story because everything got scrapped a year before the game came out. That's a big problem. And, you know, as I kind of had mentioned too, basically the Forever 29 was the big popular thing too, is because everyone basically got stuck there because you just could not get that one piece of raid gear or whatever it was because that's the only way because I mean now you can hit 400 without, you know, you can hit max light without running raids, without doing this.
You could do any end game activity at all.
Yeah. Whereas then it was strictly you have to run the raid, and you need each piece of armor in order to hit max level.
Yeah.
So I mean, me personally, and this is going to lead a little bit into next week, but when the first expansion actually came out, that was when I actually hit level 30.
Yep.
I could not get the last piece of fucking raid gear to hit 30.
I think my Warlock was 30 and my Titan was still like 28, 29. I didn't make a Hunter until I think it was House of Wolves.
You're missing out.
You were missing out the whole time.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, one thing that was neat too. I mean, this is just kind of touching on before we sort of close things out. Was that the way that they did it with like the different subclasses and stuff too? Was you know, on your first character you ever made in the game, you were stuck with either striker, voidwalker, or gunslinger, and that was it. And then you hit level 15, I want to say it was, and that's when you unlock the second subclass. But what I thought was pretty neat though was if you made a second character, you could actually switch right away.
Oops.
Yeah, so if you made, you know, say you made a Titan, you could actually start off as a Defender Titan instead, which I thought was pretty cool once you finished it.
Interesting, yeah.
Right? And it actually...
Go ahead.
And it actually, because I did that on my original Titan when I first made, because I started off as a hunter, and I think my Titan might have been my second or third character I made. But I actually started with Defender Titan and was playing through story with Defender. And when you're trying to play through the story with that, it was actually a little bit harder running through on Defender. Because you didn't, I mean, yeah, you had the bubble, but most of the subclass, you know, skills you don't really unlock till way late in the game. Yeah. I mean, Armor of Light really doesn't do a goddamn thing for you.
Yeah, I mean, if going through our final thoughts and stuff, like the grind in vanilla Destiny was something that turned off a lot of people too.
Yeah,
not only did you have not only did you have to find the piece of raid gear that you needed, but to even unlock the nodes in the raid gear, you needed specific material that you could only get if you broke down raid armor or raid weapons.
Oh yeah,
that was the only way to get like the shards that you needed.
It was, yeah, because it was only raid gear. Well, yeah, because you had to break down the armor to get the Ascendant shard, or the Ascendant, what I think it was Ascendant shards, and that's what you used to upgrade more armor. And it was just like, yeah. And you got small amounts too.
Mm-hmm. Well, you can get them from chests in the raid also, but like you said, they didn't really drop in high quantities. Most of the players got those just by breaking down armor pieces and having to go and farm planetary materials like every time you logged into the game because you wanted to level up a weapon that you were using too that wasn't like a raid weapon or raid armor.
God, those days.
So much farming. That's where a lot of the MMO things I think they wanted people to go and farm for materials.
Which is fine, but with like MMOs, everything's so expansive that farming isn't that bad. But when you're limited, farming can get really monotonous.
Yeah, like the only place you can get relic iron is Mars. Yeah,
it's Mars.
That's it. You can always run on Mars for like 3 hours.
And it's not even like the relic iron one was the one too that it didn't seem nearly as like abundant as any of the other elements. Like spin metal, you could get a fuck ton of that on Earth. But like I always remember, and even to this day, like my vault, relic iron has like the least amount of stuff in my vault to this day because I just don't get nearly what I need.
I just buy all my planetary materials now.
Yeah, quartermaster.
Yep.
I mean, I haven't bought materials in God knows how long, but
yeah, I haven't had to for a while either because they got rid of that. Like now, Destiny in the state that it's in, there's really not much you have to grind for anymore. Yeah,
it's an open book.
But I mean, I don't know what else we could touch on here.
I mean, I think I'd say that's about it. At least for this week.
I would say let's choose the next game, but the next game is going to be Destiny. So
it's going to be a continuation. But yeah, I mean, I think unless you have anything else, Drake, that you want to.
Yep. No, I'm good.
You're good.
Nope.
All right.
We hit this one hard.
But yeah, I mean, that's going to wrap up part 1 of the mini series. As always, DC Skater Shane here. You can find me mainly just Twitter at this point, at DC Skater Shane. really drop a like, and if you have any other, any feedback or anything even relating to the show or whatever the hell it is, feel free. I'm on it fairly regularly, so drop a like and comments, whatever you like. But what about the rest of you guys? Where can any of the fans check you out?
You can find me here on Mixer, YouTube, Twitter, PlayStation. Everything is Mr. Bojangles 1984. So if you want to interact with me, that's where you can find me.
Drake?
I'm on the tweets at Drake Dangerson1, and on Twitch at Drake_Dangerson, YouTube Drake Dangerson, and there's a big sign outside my house, so come on over. It says Drake Dangerson. I serve shrimp pies, and they're delicious. If that's not your sort of thing, then get the fuck out.
You should probably all join up on the Otter Squad.
That's right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, thanks everybody, for hanging out here on Mixer, watching the videos on YouTube, or checking out the audio versions on Podbean, iTunes, or wherever you get your podcast from. And if you haven't, give us a follow on Twitter at GC Continuum. Subscribe to our YouTube channel for the video versions as well. And really send feedback to gamecastcontinuum@gmail.com. We're looking to improve the show for you guys. So either send us an email or, again, tweet to either one of us or the show account as well. And, we're looking for things to make it better and just to kind of make it a little bit more entertaining for you guys. And really, thanks again for everybody for tuning in each and every week. And we'll see you next week for part 2 of this mini-series. And thanks for just listening to us over here at Gamecast Continuum.
Peace out, everybody.
Yay, yay.